Right guys, we're back with another brief rundown on some of the utter garbage spewed out by the media recently, literally like you fire out the screaming shits after 10 pints and a Ruby Murray. In all honesty though, the media have the consistency and likability of explosive diarrhea, so I guess it's a fair comparison after all. Now, like always, today's offering showcased the lunacy we are living under, the decline of this country, tosspot MPs, scientists and of course Sadiq Khan, the certified snivelling shitweasel this country loves so much. But you know what, enough of that, let's actually get into the first story we have here, or should I say lack of a story, because the media seem to be avoiding any serious coverage or mention of the protests on Saturday that actually ended up outside the BBC. They will all report on the pro-Palestinian protest, but not a protest calling them out attended by untold thousands. Now yes, a few outlets have mentioned the anti-lockdown protests themselves in articles while they've put the pro-Palestine ones on the TV. Leaving me to ask which is actually more important to the public, something related to this country or something happening thousands of miles away. I certainly know where I would put my money on most of the country's answer there. Anyway, up next we have the government ministers preparing the scapegoats for their next lockdown plans because the blame game is certainly back on. The Telegraph are reporting some tosspot minister not brave enough to put his name to his words has said people who refuse the vaccine are the principal threat, like they are some fucking terrorists or some shit like that. In my mind, this minister should be fucking named and shamed for what he's saying here. He is a servant of the people, he is calling a threat, when the threat that concerns me more is these fuckpig ministers vilifying people for not wanting to do something they are saying they should do. People have the right to choose, and I will always stand up for that right to choose, even if I do not agree with their choice. UNESCO rulings and the Council of Europe reinforce that right to choose, especially in the UK. We are founding members of these bodies, it must be remembered. Next up though, we have some deranged extremist scumbags or possibly Jeremy Corbyn's mates, driving around London in cars screaming out some vile shit calling to rape people's daughters in what can only be described as racism pure and simple. In fact, it's a similar sort of racism that fuels the grooming gang scandal rife in this country, only this time it's not directed at white British girls. Now reports are saying 4 of these low-life fuckpigs have been arrested, but considering this was done in a convoy containing multiple cars, surely there should have been more arrests. You can bet if a group of white guys chanted this shit about Muslims, or anyone else for that matter, the media and police would be hounding everyone down involved without a doubt. In fact, I would say 10-year minimum sentences would be handed out for the sake of diversity on this one. But I feel I should also point out this is the Britain fostered by the Tories and Labour for decades. This shit show will only continue as well. Now, moving on, we also had Dr. Shillary Jones, the Good Morning Britain tosspot, who you might remember gave us this little gem a while back.
And they want the message to be out there that even on a beach, if you're looking at those pictures that we've just seen, if you're on a crowded beach, there's a risk of transmission. And in theory, if you go swimming in the sea, you should be wearing a mask. If you go swimming in the sea, you should be wearing a mask.
Well, he was back today telling the British public how to hug while putting out the usual fear porn he seems to love. The idiot actually tried to give advice on hugging, which has been rightly shat all over by the British public, much like his comments in relation to waterboarding yourself were and still are now. At this point, I would argue he might be more embarrassing to the medical profession than the dancing TikTok nurses we cringed at last year. Actually, what do you guys think? Who is the greatest shitweasel of the two? Dancing nurses or Dr. Shillary Jones, the self-waterboarding advocate? But away from him, next up we have a Guardian article coming from a tosspot in Sage that used to work for him, who actually thinks people should ignore lockdown easing and stay at home anyway. This is of course bollocks, but that is what I expect from the commie cumstains who make up Sage or were a part of it, as could be the case here. Either way, it's batshit crazy and gives me more reason to feel there should be criminal investigations into Sage and its advice. Now though, moving on, Labour are also featured in a Guardian article turning yet more people against them with another proposal no one is actually going to support. It's claiming they want hate crime laws for misogyny among many other lunatic ideas that won't be supported by any men that is not a soy latte drinking fuckpig, much like most women will not support this because it's just stupid. And as we all know, the terms could be so vague any criticism of a woman could be considered a crime, putting us in even more shit than we already are now. Some might say a Conservative government wouldn't do this, but take a look at the past year to see just how wrong you could be. Boris Johnson is about as Conservative as Karl fucking Marx at this point. Next up though, we have Sadiq Khan, who was called out by Good Morning Britain today for London's crime rate going up under his watch, something we have been pointing out for a long time now. This was all in relation to extremists driving around in cars that I talked about earlier, which led the host to question his record on crime, and rightly so. After all, it has been a disaster, let's be honest. BLM should be screaming at him considering the stab city London has become on his watch. But finally, we have the police up in Norwich recording a hate crime in relation to the Confederate flag because some soy-infused trout decided to bitch about it, offending her poor fifis. As you would expect, it is a teacher involved in this because why would it not be? They are for the most part deranged tosspots who cry about everything because they get away with it, as proven here. But as you would expect, it seems the locals in the area are baffled someone would actually complain about this while standing up for people's freedom to fly whatever flag they fucking want to. It's pretty much the usual bollocks we get from some uni-educated fuckpigs these days, indoctrinated with mind-melting bullshit as you know. But to top that off, we had a local outlet, the Eastern Daily Press, who wrote a cringe article defending this teacher's butt herself that has also been shat on by the public. So I have to say well done to the people up there for letting these idiots know their bullshit is not supported, and let's be honest, it's never going to be at the end of the day. This is something I'm actually sick of pointing out at this point. But guys, that there is the end of the video and the end of this news brief for the day. I want to thank you all for watching, especially the legends who have watched it to the end. Remember, my BitChute and Odyssey channels are linked down below, so check them out if you have not already. Until the next one though, enjoy your day and never be a shitweasel like the idiots in this video.